Hello everybody, Keith here again. In this video I'm going to repot my first Cattleya. It's a no ID, it's white. I bought this quite some years ago now at the RHS Gardens at Wisley on the outskirts of London. And I was doing what I've been accused of doing with some other things, sort of collecting things like stamps. Well, that looks nice, I'll have a go at that. And it didn't do an awful lot for me for a long time. It tended to put canes up, but they didn't flower. And then a couple of years ago it did. Doesn't produce sheaves, the spikes come straight out the end of the cane. It's got two leads. One of them's tended to flower more than the other, but this year both of them flowered. Now, this is the back end, and there are no roots right back to here. We've got good roots at the front, but as it's pushing on, some of these roots aren't going down, and that, which I know was a great big fat root not long ago, has packed up. It's been in this quite some time, so it's time it was looked at. It normally hangs more or less vertically above this table, up in the roof of the conservatory all year round, and it seems to be tolerably happy. But as I say, it's been here for a long time, so let's have a look and see what problems we're going to have. Well, the first problem is typical Cattleya, it's sticking, and I've lost a lot of root, almost inevitably. I see it better that way around. That's quite a lot of root. But that is stuck on that. I mean, that's stuck on like super glue, that was. So Cattleyas do have a tendency to do that. Now, that's just a fineish bark, but whatever it was I used, there was a lot of dust in it, or it's starting to go degrade and go dusty, because there's a lot of it down in the bottom of there. So I suppose the next thing is to finish getting all the, now you can see straight away the back end really isn't doing anything much for it at all. There's no roots, and hasn't been for quite some time there. These are all gone. I don't know quite what to do with that, because you've got leaves on and these canes are good and firm, so I'm loath to start hacking and chopping and doing too much knocking this about. I'm not sure that's going to be the best thing for it. So if any of you are more expert at Cattleyas than I am, which is what I'm concerned, that's not at all. As I say, this is the first one I've had, and if it's grown well, I've got to say that it's more by accident than design on my part. But the whole of this back end is not doing much, and we've got some roots from nearer the front that aren't doing a lot either, so that's a little bit worrying. But we have got quite a few good roots coming on it, so, but even so we've got some roots that didn't go down, but they're not looking very clever at all. So like that one. I suspect, as is my usual unfortunate habit, I've left it a bit too long and it's struggling a bit at the front end, but you can see, I think, from this that we've actually got 2 leads. I could, I suppose, if I really wanted to, cut these 2 plants up, but I honestly don't see any point. It's doing okay as it is, but I don't think it wanted leaving any longer, and I've made up a date label, so I shan't do that again. But yeah, you can see it's progressed up two growing points, and we're going now. What do I do with it? Given that Cattleyas do not like being wet for any length of time, they need to dry out between waterings. I very much prefer to underpot this rather than overpot it. Actually, a piece of stake there that it's very firmly attached to. There we are. That's better. There we are. So, yeah, we've got some roots that are okay, some that are not very brilliant, but we've got stuff off both sides of this. These 2 growing leads, and as I say, I think it was me that folded it round when I did it. But we've got 2 leads. There's what feels like a new growth point there. There's roots on the end of this. There's no real signs of a new growth coming, but we'll see. Now, do I try and get it back in there? Oh well, that has answered the question altogether, because the rhizome snapped. So whether I wanted it or not, I've got 2 plants, and this bit hasn't got much by way of root. That's a pity. I didn't want to do that, but unfortunately that's what you get sometimes when you're handling things. Yes, this puts roots out very much on the. That's obviously a much better plant. That will now go back in there. No problem at all. It's what I do with this one, because it is nice if I can get that to go and put a new growth out. Hasn't got a lot of root, and it hasn't got a lot of strength in that plant, but rather than just lob it, I'll see what we got by way of a pot that it'll go into. Want something that kind of diameter, a bit shallower, I think. I think something like that, I really don't want that to be in any greater depth than it absolutely has to be. So, let's see now then. That's been in what looks very much like my normal orchid focus bark. I'll put in that's going to not drain very well if I'm not very careful, but I'm not sure what else to do. I bought a big mesh pot, but it's a lot bigger than that, and I'm not sure I could get the bark and stuff in there very well. I'll have to work out how to use that. So this one it'll go back in. I think I'm going to wipe that out and I'm going to put some more holes in to try and make sure it drains, so bear with me. Right, while I'm waiting for my soldering iron to warm up so I can put some holes in that, I thought you might like to see how I do that. I'll pot this piece, put some coarser bark in the bottom, because this is going to have to drain, otherwise it will do no good at all. But it's got so few roots. Will it do any good? I don't know. I don't know. It's probably worth trying. It's worth a try, but I'm not sure. I am not sure. There's no way with that amount of root that's ever going to be stable. Now when I took it out of the pot earlier on this afternoon, I have it. Oh, look at that. That's exactly what I thought would happen. Exactly what I thought would happen. I'll try again. When I got this out of the other pot, there were a lot of stakes in there from the previous times that I've tried to repot it, and I've had the same problem. I mean, I suppose you could expect it simply because it's it's tall. It's like a lot of dendrobiums. It's tall for what it is, for the basal area. So you can put it in fine, but if you're not very, very careful, the whole thing's just going to overbalance. So that is pretty much the best I'm going to be able to do with that. It'll be unstable until I manage to persuade it to put some roots out. Really very for some roots. But orchids like to survive. I've got something to show you when we do the next lot of developments. I had I see a little smoke, that's the soldering iron. The Oncidium sotoanum that I had that split didn't look very good. That actually is trying to regrow. So this is all I do. I've got a soldering iron, and it melts the plastic and goes through and puts some extra holes in. They're not as big as the holes the manufacturers put in, but they'll do the job, which is you want to get air in and let the thing drain. I think with something like this, where you've not got a lot of working roots, you want quite a lot of holes in it. You're not particularly going to weaken the pot, but you are going to help it dry out a little bit quicker than it would do otherwise. And for these epiphytes, that's probably what they need. And I'll have to watch what I'm doing from now on, otherwise I'll burn my fingers. But I think this'll do it no harm at all. Sure of that. That didn't sound very good. I suspect this pot's getting rather old and perhaps a bit fragile. So let's put a few extra holes in. I think that'll help. Let's unplug that. Take it out of the way so it doesn't look like I'm on fire. Okay, same kind of thing again. Some coarse bark in the bottom, and then we'll try and do what we can with it. Right, so now again, I've got absolutely no doubt whatever that this will need staking. There's not enough roots to make it really stable. I lost a lot of roots when I took it out of the pot. So although there are some roots in here, going a little bit deep I think, I think we're going to have to just watch what we're doing, because as I say over and over again, if you're not careful you end up with wet patches, and it doesn't matter what kind of plants we're talking about. If you've got parts of the media that the roots aren't drying out, then you will undoubtedly get bacterial problems start to form. Now that is more stable. That is more stable because I've potted it lower down. But I will try to stake it a bit. That's not much cop keefy. I do try to reuse the little wires, but eventually you get a touch of fatigue and the whole thing will start to pack up on you. But that's reasonably stable at that, I think. I'll see how we go. So that's one. So I think looking at that, where are we? That's got that done. You can see we've got that nicely placed. I've tried to get it back so a little bit so that the growing end has got some space to go, but we'll see how we go. That's all we can do really. just see how you go. So all I'm doing is I'm putting the stakes right up to the edge of the pot. Just trying to stabilise it. They're not doing any, not trying to make the canes go in a particular direction. We're just trying to stop it wobbling. Because one thing that's become very clear, it's something that I did read and something I think from personal experience I can endorse. If you've got a plant that is short of roots but is wobbling about in the pot, the roots won't grow. Orchids definitely do not like to be loose in the pot and wobbling. The roots, it either rubs the tips off the roots or does something, but it won't put roots out. So you need to have a plant that's tolerably stable, and then you can start with a reasonably hopeful thing. Okay, so that's my white Cattleya done, which is broken, split into two pieces, and we'll see how many bits we actually get in the fullness of time and whether what I've done is successful or not. So, thank you for watching. I hope that's been of some interest, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.